everyone, and welcome back to Monkeynomics. I am fighting a cold right now, so I apologize for my voice. Hopefully it won't be too distracting. I want to talk today about gold, silver, other precious metals, Bitcoin, that sort of thing. Basically cash alternatives. A lot of people have been talking about this. I've had some requests in the past to make a Monkeynomics video specifically about gold. Now, I did touch on the role of gold in my asset diversification video, which I'll post a link to in the cards. However, I want to kind of delve more deeply into the subject now. So, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, take it for what it's worth, I don't look at gold as a good investment because it's a cash alternative. It's a commodity. Commodities are good in lieu of cash or other cash-like alternatives, but it's not an investment. It doesn't gain interest. It doesn't earn you money. You're basically betting on the fluctuations in the value of the currency, buying low and selling high. Now, why that's different is with stocks and bonds, you're making interest on your money. When you invest in a company by buying its stock, you get a portion of the profits. And because the company's earning and working hard to make those profits, that's where you get your money from. With bonds, governments or corporations are using their profits or taxes to pay you the interest they owe you. When it comes to commodities, nobody's working for you. The gold isn't putting any hours. The gold has no conscious agenda. It's just gold. All you're betting on is that the value of gold will go up. This also works on the same principle as real estate and other commodities. Now, commodities do have a role, but they are not investments. When people talk about investing in commodities or real estate or something like that, it's not investments in the traditional sense. Now, let me differentiate what I mean. I look at investments as passive investments, things that pay you that you don't have to babysit. When you're investing in real estate and you're buying a property, building it up, flipping houses and so forth, that's not an investment, that's a job. You're earning money, true, but it's not passive. Your goal should be to get passive income through your investment so you don't have to work. If your investments take so much time to manage that it's effectively its own job, then you'll never be retired because you'll always be working managing your investments, or you'll have to pay someone to manage your investments. And then that comes out of your earnings. So anyway, getting that out of the way, let's talk about the role for gold, silver, and other commodities. Now, before we get into that, I want to talk about what money is, because this is very important. And there are people who think that the society would be better off without money. But money is a natural byproduct of any sort of trade-based economy. Even when you don't have cash, a common currency will form. In prison, they used to use cigarettes as the common currency. When they took away cigarettes because, lung cancer, now prisoners use sardines. Now, why sardines? Sardines are terrible. The reason why is because they're non-perishable, or as non-perishable as most food is. The reason why you can't use perishable food as a commodity is because you can't save it. By the time you saved enough to buy something large, most of it would have gone bad. So you need something that will keep. Another characteristic of a good common currency is that it's divisible. You can break it up into smaller units, or you can lump it up into larger units. This is why gemstones don't make good currencies. You can't smash a gem into little pieces and then form it back into a larger gem. Once you smash it, the gem is destroyed. Now, precious metals serve all of the functions of a common currency very well. They're divisible, they never expire or go bad. They have intrinsic value. They're light, well, relatively light. They're not as light as paper, but you can break them into small coins, and there you go. This is why gold and silver have been around for millennia, and they'll continue to be around for millennia. Now, as we've discovered more precious metals beyond gold and silver, there's different metals which you can invest in or hold as a common currency. For example, tungsten, platinum, titanium, whatever. Any metal that has value can be used as a currency. Like you see in, these post-apocalyptic video games like Fallout, they use bottle caps, which are just aluminum. Well, I'm not sure that's the best investment. I don't see aluminum being that valuable in the future, but you never know. But you see this in any sort of economy. In fact, I play a lot of Team Fortress 2 on Steam, and the common currency in Team Fortress 2 is scrap metal, or earbuds if you're high-end. And you're like, that's weird, because there's no money in Team Fortress. Everything is traded. And yet, because you have to have a reserve currency, you have to have some sort of common way to gauge the price of items, even without money. They're measured in keys, earbuds, or scrap metal. It sounds weird, but that's how all economies work. So the reason why gold and silver will always be around is because even in a post-apocalyptic economy, people need a way to measure value. They need something that's divisible and non-perishable to be the common reserve currency. And precious metals serve that function. Now, what about Bitcoin? I personally, and this is, again, I'm probably going to get a lot of hateful comments and down thumbs on this, I don't trust Bitcoin. And the reason why I don't trust Bitcoin is it's just code. And I don't know any of the people behind Bitcoin personally. I'm not saying they're doing anything unshady or untowards, but they promise and pinky swear they're not going to create more Bitcoin, but it's just code. You can create more code. You can't create more gold. They've been trying to make more gold since the days of alchemy. You have to mine it or you have to recycle it, but you can't just create it out of nothing. You can create code out of nothing. So any sort of currency, e-currency like Bitcoin or whatever, that's just code can be recreated infinite amount of times because that's all it is. Now, I'm sure the ciphering security is very high tech and there's nobody that has the capability to replicate Bitcoins now. But just think 50, 100 years down the road. Let's say Bitcoin becomes the currency of the world. You don't think in 50 and 100 years they're going to create some new computer program that's as advanced as whatever that can crack the code of Bitcoin and create more Bitcoin? You don't think governments would invest very heavily in such a program if they could create more Bitcoin and create money out of nothing? The other problem I have with Bitcoin is in a situation where the power grid fails, where communications are cut off. You just lost all your money. Now, true, if your money's in a bank and the communications and power infrastructure goes down, you also lost your money. But you could take your cash out of a bank and hold it as paper or whatever, buy gold or silver with it. What do you do with your Bitcoin? It's ones and zeros in an account somewhere. And if your computer network goes down, if the communication, internet, whatever goes down, your money's just gone. I don't trust it. Now, if you invest in Bitcoin, I'm not saying you should sell it or do anything. I'm not an expert in Bitcoin. This is just my opinion. I don't own any Bitcoin. All right, so now let's get into gold and silver. As I said previously, gold and silver are not a good investment, but they do have a role as insurance against a fiat currency collapse. In the event that, let's say, the US dollar begins rapidly losing its value in an event called hyperinflation, you better pray, get on your knees and pray you have some gold and silver. Now, personally, I recommend silver more than gold. And the reason why is gold is like $1,200, $1,300, I don't even know what it is right now. It's a lot of money per ounce. An ounce is just one little coin. I mean, what are you going to spend that kind of money on? Let's just say we lived in some kind of post-apocalyptic wasteland, barter system. What are you going to buy with $1,200 in one coin? It's too much money to barter with. Silver is more or less about $20 an ounce. Last time I checked, it was under $20, but it usually hovers around $20 an ounce, which is perfect. $20 is the kind of money you carry on you to trade with, to buy goods and services with. In fact, the company I recommend is Northwestern Territorial Mint. They have these bars called Stagecoach Silver, which are scored, and you can break them into quarters. So you take your $20 ounce silver bar, you could break it into quarters, and now you have 1/4 ounce $5 bars. You can trade with that. You can barter with that. You could trade that silver for other goods and services that you need. Now, how much silver do I recommend keeping? I recommend about 6 months of expenses. So what you do is you take how much money you spend in 6 months to maintain your standard of living, calculate that in dollars, and buy that much in silver to cover that cost. So let's say you spend $10,000 in 6 months, you're going to want about $10,000 in silver. Now, where do you put this silver? For the love of God, do not put it in a bank. Don't put it in a safety deposit box. Don't put it anywhere. You need to put it in your house. Buy a safe, buy a very nice safe, spend a couple $100s on a nice safe. Don't buy some cheap piece of shit. You're going to need to buy something that's heavy that people can't just scoop in their arms and run out the door with it. And then you're going to put your silver in that. That's going to be your bank. And again, because it's not earning interest, because it doesn't earn interest anyway, there's no reason to ever put it in a bank. So you keep the silver in your safe. If your safe runs out of room and you need to make room, you could trade some of your silver in for gold. That's really the only way I would recommend having gold, is simply to free up space in your safe. But once you have about 6 months of living expenses in your safe, you're good. You don't need to worry about storing a lot more than that. It's really all you really need. Now, in addition to gold and silver, you should also have about 6 months of living expenses in a money market or savings account. I recommend a money market account. And this is a more realistic emergency fund you're going to tap into. In the event that there's just a recession or, are we into some second Great Depression, you're going to use your cash first. Your cash is actually going to go up in value in a depression. However, if there's hyperinflation, your cash is going to be worthless. So you're going to need your silver and gold. So again, if there's a depression, you're going to want cash. If there's hyperinflation, you're going to want silver and gold. So if you have 6 months of expenses in cash and you have 6 months of expenses in silver and gold, you're covered no matter what. Now, why do I say only 6 months? Well, beyond that time, you're going to have something happen. I mean, if there's a hyperinflationary period or some sort of severe depression, the government's going to do something. They're either going to inflate the currency or they're going to do something. They're going to take some action. So after about 6 months or so, something should start to shake out. Now, in the long term, and this is going to seem counterintuitive, stocks are your best bet, your best hedge against inflation long term. And the reason why is, regardless of the environment, companies adapt their prices and their profits. So in an inflationary environment, companies will raise their prices and maintain their profits. In a deflationary environment, companies will cut workers and cut expenses and maintain their profits. As the economy stabilizes, companies will begin to become profitable again. Therefore, your best hedge against inflation is stocks. However, in the short run, during the actual turbulent transition phase, you need to put food on your table. You need to be able to afford necessary goods and services to make it to that other end. So that's why you need cash and you need gold and silver. But in the long run, your money is going to be safer in a stock. It's going to earn a lot more interest than if you took all your money out of the stock market, bought a bunch of gold and silver, and hoarded it in your house waiting for the end times. Now, let me also say, if we're talking about a complete zombie apocalypse shutdown of everything, we're talking like Mad Max zombie apocalypse shit, you could forget about your money. You could forget about your gold and silver. All of that is completely worthless. It's going to be food, medicine, fuel, and ammo. Those are going to be the new currency. Now, the problem with all four of those things is you still don't have a reserve currency. Even in a post-apocalyptic Mad Max style future, there has to be some sort of reserve currency that's non-perishable and divisible. But if you're just talking straight survival, it doesn't even matter. Who gives a shit? If you need medicine or you need food or you need fuel or you need ammo, you don't really care how much it's worth. You're just trying to make it through one more day. But assuming we haven't gotten to that point, we're probably going to have some sort of reserve currency based on some precious metal, because we have to have something that's finite, something that's non-divisible and non-perishable, to be the reserve currency of trade. But if you want to prepare for that zombie apocalypse Mad Max future, just start hoarding supplies, start gathering things up. You're going to need fuel to run any sort of vehicle, you're going to need food, and you're going to need ammunition and weapons. If you're a pacifist, if you don't believe in violence, that's fine, but just be aware that if you don't have any means to defend yourself, all these supplies you're gathering, you're just going to be holding them for the first person who comes upon you with a weapon. So I highly recommend getting over your pacifism and learning some self-defense. I mean, you could always just shoot him in the leg, I'm just saying. But if it gets to that, whatever you do, if you live in a city or a suburb of a city, don't hoard your stuff there. There's no point. You need to get the hell out. You need to go somewhere rural, in the country, preferably around a farm, around water or a forest where you can hunt or fish or something. There's nothing in the city. It's just a lot of people. There's going to be a lot of looting and rioting. It's going to be terrible. So, instead of hoarding stuff in your little flat apartment waiting for the end, you need to come up with an escape plan and just get the fuck out if things start to go that way. Now, I personally don't think the future is going to end up like a Mad Max zombie apocalypse. If that happens, though, what can you do? I mean, you could forget about retirement. You could forget about all that shit. It's just time to strap on your armor and head out into the wasteland and, bring law to the lawless. You could forget about all that shit at that point. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think what's much more likely to happen is some sort of economic meltdown. Most likely of, the US dollar, the euro, those types of currencies. Now, in the absence of those currencies, people are going to turn to gold and silver as a medium of exchange. And eventually some new government will come along, create a new fiat currency system, and things will mellow out after a year or two. That's what I see coming. But the best way to prepare for whatever's coming next, have about 6 months of living expenses in cash. Keep that in the money market so we're earning a little bit of interest. It's not going to be, a lot of interest. It's going to be a little bit. Also have 6 months of living expenses in silver. Keep that in your home in a safe. That way, if there is hyperinflation, you have 6 months of expenses. And depending on how severe the hyperinflation, it may last you much longer than that. And then lastly, start thinking about things like food, medicine, fuel, and ammunition weapons. Keep them in your home. Now, if you live in a country that's very anti-firearm, very anti-weapon, I don't know, look into things like bows and arrows or something. I don't know. I remember back a few years ago when the London riots were happening, people were looking for baseball bats at sporting goods stores because that was one of the few ways they could defend themselves that was legal. Because while most weapons were illegal, because a baseball bat is considered a sporting equipment, it was legal. But, look at the laws where you live, what you can legally have, because, you don't want to get arrested or get in trouble. But you need to have some way to defend yourself because if shit goes down, people are just going to turn into animals. And if they know you have food and medicine and so forth, they're going to come for you. And they don't give a shit. They're going to murder you and your family, and they're not going to lose a wink of sleep over it. So you need to have some way to defend yourself. So, I don't know. Think about that. So, hopefully you found this video entertaining and informative. Let me know if you have any questions about this. I know I didn't get too much into gold and silver because I really just don't consider it an investment per se. You could look at the value of gold and silver over time. It's really not that impressive. There was a gold bubble a few years ago around the housing bubble, but that's all it was a bubble. Gold and silver are not good long-term investments. But anyway, those are my thoughts about gold, silver, Bitcoin, and that sort of stuff. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.